Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
San Diego Mayor Todd Gloria today announced his pick for the next chief of police. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The nominee is a 25-year veteran of the San Diego Police Department, and KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen has the details.
We do have our chief.
Gloria says his search for a new police chief was nationwide and that 56 people applied for the job. But as was the case for the last two police chiefs, the winning candidate came from within. Assistant Chief Scott Wall started as an officer, then got promoted to detective, then captain.
He has truly risen through the ranks, underscoring not just the significant experience he has within our police department and in the communities of San Diego, but also his ability to hit the ground running and lead our department on day one.
Gloria acknowledged some communities in San Diego don't trust the police and that the department should evolve along with the needs and desires of city residents, though he didn't give specifics. Wall says he wants to invest in leadership development as more and more police officers reach retirement age.
The San Diego Police Department faces an unprecedented amount of turnover in the next 2 years. My focus is going to be on developing our workforce and preparing them so that they're ready to rise to the occasion when we need them.
In 2018, Wall helped launch the department's Neighborhood Policing Division, which focuses on quality of life crimes tied to homelessness, mental health, and addiction. He says he wants to restructure the department so it can improve response times even as it struggles to fill vacancies.
There's no surprise that we do have depleted staffing levels, and so making sure that that workload is spread equitably amongst all of our employees is going to be the primary focus moving forward. And so a little bit of restructuring to change some of that alignment I think is going to, again, make us more efficient, more effective, and maximize the use of the resources that we have.
Sometime in the coming weeks, the City Council will hold a meeting to interview Wall for the job and allow the public to comment. A vote to confirm his nomination is expected sometime before June. That's when current Police Chief David Nislight will retire. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
EMTs are often among the first responders to arrive at the scene of an emergency. Coming up, the new program to incentivize and train more women to join the field.
Coming up tonight, we are looking at some patchy clouds moving in, temperatures into the 50s, a cooling trend before a wet and windy weekend ahead. I'll have a closer look at when things dry out and calm down. That's all coming up.
Thousands more special immigrant visas could be available for Afghans who helped the U.S. during its 20-year war. KPBS military and veterans reporter Andrew Dyer caught up with the San Diego Navy veteran whose organization has been at the front of this resettlement effort.
Sean Van Diver co-founded Afghan Evac during the American withdrawal from Afghanistan in the summer of 2021. His volunteer organization has worked with Congress, the State Department, and the White House to help the thousands of Afghans who relocated to the U.S. but have no path to permanent residency. Van Diver says thousands of Afghans took significant risk for themselves and their families in helping the U.S.
They killed in our name, and they earned a place in our communities. They earned a special immigrant visa, which is a program that allows these folks who believed in the idea of America and stood up and took action and are now at risk to come here and become Americans.
The additional visas are part of the negotiated $1.2 trillion omnibus spending bill meant to head off a partial government shutdown this weekend. Democratic and Republican House leaders agreed on the 12,000 additional visas as part of a compromise. Van Diver and his organization have been pushing the government to help Afghans resettle since the withdrawal. One bill, the Afghan Adjustment Act, would have streamlined the process for the tens of thousands of Afghans in the U.S. under humanitarian parole. It failed to pass due to Republican opposition. Van Diver was in Washington, D.C. last week and says this time he's confident they've got the votes for the visas.
Now, things could go sideways. Congress is crazy. We are comfortable saying that this is very likely to pass.
He estimates there are about 2,500 evacuated Afghans in San Diego waiting for a legal path to permanent residency, be it through the SIV program or the asylum system.
We've still got work to do on this, but this is a concrete step forward, and it's happened in a bipartisan manner.
The first vote on the spending package is expected Friday. Andrew Dyer, KPBS News.
Some Mira Mesa residents are not happy with the way the city is maintaining a building in their area, and they held a press conference today to voice their concerns about the condition of the Epicenter building and surrounding property. The group says city officials need to immediately address, quote, alarming neglect by the Department of Real Estate Management in maintaining the property and ask the city to transfer oversight to Parks and Recreation.
Transferring the oversight to Parks and Recreation will guarantee that the Epicenter will be used for park and recreation activities and not subject to redevelopment for housing or a homeless shelter. This simple solution will provide a good faith gesture to the residents of Mira Mesa that is going to last long past the current election cycle.
The group also asks for the city to start regular pest control and sanitation inside and around the building and say it will organize community cleanup events to preserve the Epicenter. California joined more than a dozen states and the U.S. Justice Department in filing a blockbuster antitrust lawsuit against Apple. Mike Valerio explains what's at the very core of this historic suit.
It's a sweeping U.S. antitrust lawsuit against Apple, which the Department of Justice compares to its historic case against Microsoft in the 90s and the breakup of the monopoly of Standard Oil back in 1911. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland said Thursday the heart of this blockbuster case is simple.
We allege that Apple has consolidated its monopoly power, not by making its own products better, but by making other products worse.
Making other products worse, the DOJ alleges, to disincentivize consumers from using products that are not made by Apple.
We bring this case to make sure that Apple competes by innovating rather than imposing rules and fees that prevent others from innovating and competing too.
The DOJ described how Apple, it says, degrades how Android messages appear on iPhones, blocks new apps on the iPhone operating system, and restricts competing smartwatches from working with iPhones. All the DOJ says making consumers more likely to buy from Apple.
As any iPhone user who has ever seen a green text message or received a tiny, grainy video can attest, Apple's anti-competitive conduct also includes making it more difficult for iPhone users to message with users of non-Apple products.
Apple denied the lawsuit's allegations and in a statement said the lawsuit could set a, quote, dangerous precedent and hinder its ability to make compelling and consumer-friendly technology. The company writing, quote, this lawsuit threatens who we are and the principles that set Apple products apart in fiercely competitive markets.
Mike Valerio, KPBS News.
More than $103 million in additional funding has been secured to help stop cross-border pollution. Today, California Senator Alex Padilla announced the new money to repair the South Bay International Wastewater Treatment Plant. City and county leaders have been sounding the alarm over the sewage flows, which have closed beaches for hundreds of days. The bill also allows other federal agencies, along with state and local governments, to contribute funds to the plant's repair. Ongoing construction of a new border wall threatened to destroy hundreds of murals that decorate the Tijuana side. But now a group of activists found a way to preserve some of them. KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis spoke to the people working to save a slice of our common history.
For a long time, the border wall was just that, a wall. Then, artists on the Mexican side decided to make it a window into our cross-border culture. They painted colorful, vibrant murals, a blood-red heart with love written on it, a depiction of President Joe Biden making out with Donald Trump, and powerful tributes to deported veterans. Maria Teresa Fernandez is a photographer who chronicled this transformation for 25 years.
Since I started, I started kind of feeling that object, the wall, was alive. I saw during all this time that it was changing, it was growing in length and in height. it was reproducing from 1 to 2 and in other places to 3 walls.
Then came 2023. That's when the U.S. government tore down the old wall so it could build a bigger one. And the window was shattered. Or so we thought.
We knew the Mexico side, the community on the Mexico side had invested so much love and care and energy and creativity in this site. We wanted to make sure that some of that was preserved.
That's John Fanistil. He's an activist with the group Friends of Friendship Park. And he couldn't bear to see those murals lost forever. So he called Micah Parson, CEO of the Museum of Us, with one simple question.
Would you consider having the museum try to obtain these sections of the wall before they get destroyed? And we absolutely jumped at the opportunity.
The museum spent 8 months acquiring 20 pieces of the old border wall. It was a long and complicated process that involved multiple conversations with Customs and Border Protection and the private contractor hired to dismantle the wall. Those 20 pieces are now safe in an undisclosed warehouse in the South Bay. If you look close enough and at just the right angle, you can see migrants crossing the border. And each section has small details hidden in plain sight, like tiny hearts and butterflies, even handprints. You can even tell which sections of the wall were closest to the ocean by looking at how the salty air corroded the metal beams. Fernandez, the photographer, is overjoyed to see the murals survive.
They mean a lot. They mean a lot for the history of that area.
Parsons says the history won't be locked up in a museum.
They don't belong to us. They really belong to the community. And it's the community that should come together to decide how this sort of wealth gets redistributed back into our trinational region.
Museums have a history of taking things that don't belong to them. Parsons sees this project as part of an ongoing effort to correct the mistakes of the past.
We have caused inestimable harm to indigenous communities, to other communities of color, by taking their belongings, by taking their ancestors and refusing to give them back for decades. And we've really, over the last several years, turned that corner and realized they don't belong to us as an institution. They belong back into the community.
Fanistil says that Friends of Friendship Park, the Museum of Us, and other community stakeholders will spend the next year figuring out where and how to display these unique artifacts.
Perhaps there will be sites in the public, either on either side of the border, where one or more of these sections of wall might be displayed. Perhaps there might be a traveling site with a section or two of the wall able to visit different locations. We don't know. These are all possibilities.
They envision a truly genuine tri-national effort involving people from San Diego, Tijuana, and Kumeyaay Nation. Brandon Linton is a cultural consultant and member of the Kumeyaay.
Before there was a U.S.-Mexico, there was us, the Kumeyaay people. And so we originally inhabited the area from generally down around the Ensenada area up to Capistrano area.
And Friendship Park is right in the middle of that area.
So the U.S.-Mexico border from its conception split our homeland virtually in half.
Linton says the border wall has had a devastating impact on the Kumeyaay people. It has separated them for generations.
I think that this project is a great way to bring attention to that and bring some light to those issues of people that need to move back and forth across that border.
A way to reopen the window. Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
California voters have narrowly approved the first update to the state's mental health system in 20 years. Governor Newsom had campaigned for Proposition 1, saying it was needed to tackle the homelessness crisis. The measure authorizes the state to borrow nearly $6.5 billion to build housing and treatment beds. It also restricts how counties can use money from a tax on millionaires that is meant to fund mental health services. Critics argue the change threatens programs keeping people from becoming homeless in the first place. The cost of buying and selling a home could be lowering. The National Association of Realtors recently agreed to settle antitrust lawsuits with groups of home sellers agreeing to pay $418 million and eliminate rules on realtor commissions. Jen Sullivan explains what this could mean for the housing market.
Some big changes are likely coming to the housing market. Typically, home sellers pay a standard 6% commission to their listing agent and their buyer's realtor, but it appears that's changing.
People are going to scrutinize, as they always do, a little more carefully all of the expenses involved.
Last week, the National Association of Realtors agreed to settle a lawsuit over inflated realtor commission and lack of transparency. The 6% commission, at the heart of the controversy, was never a set rule, more of an industry standard. And some realtors say that money doesn't just go in their pockets.
These properties have to be marketed. Digital ads have to be run, target marketing, photographs, all these aerial and drone videos. Who pays for that? The agent is paying for that.
A judge still has to approve the settlement, but TD Cowen Insights estimates the changes will cause real estate commissions to drop by 25 to 50%. It also could shift a chunk of that cost from sellers to buyers. So let's crunch the numbers. According to the most recent data from the NAR, the median single-family home sales price in January was $383,500. The seller of that typical house would pay more than $23,000 in realtor commissions as it stands now.
It's very much a deterrent for people wishing to buy.
Right now, home sellers incorporate those commissions into their sticker price. But some real estate experts say this settlement opens the door to much lower competitive commissions, perhaps even more flat rate fees, and that could mean a drop in average home sale prices. For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
Parts of the federal government could briefly shut down this weekend despite a bipartisan budget deal. While it appears to have enough support to pass, the issue is whether it can overcome hurdles by the end of tomorrow. Lawmakers who oppose the deal have ways to slow down the process. In the House, expediting with a suspension of the rules requires a supermajority, while in the Senate, a unanimous consent vote fails if even one person objects.
One isn't really about the process of whether it's Friday or Saturday or Sunday. It's whether or not someone stands up and says the emperor has no clothes, the country has no money.
There's absolutely no reason for a pointless and costly shutdown.
The good news is a brief weekend shutdown wouldn't cause as many issues as a longer one, and that's because many federal workers already have those days off. The Biden administration finalized a key piece of its climate agenda today. New tailpipe rules for cars and trucks will decisively push the U.S. auto market toward electric vehicles and hybrids within the next decade. But getting automakers and drivers on board remains a challenge. Michael Yoshida reports.
Shell says it will sell around 500 gas stations, including joint ventures, in 2024 and another 500 in 2025. The move comes as the company tries to grow its EV charging business.
This only amounts to about 2% of Shell's gas stations, so gas stations aren't going away overnight. It is an indication that oil companies see this as a growing market.
Here in the U.S., EV sales hit a record last year, topping 1 million for the first time. But a gap between sales expectations and reality is emerging. Industry experts say price, confusing tax credits, and a lack of public charging stations are holding consumers back from making the leap to EV. But moves like Shell's and recent federal financial incentives to build out a national charging network, as well as tax credit to cover a percentage of the installation process, may help boost consumer confidence.
I think more and more companies are starting to see that there is a gap, and there's an opportunity to make money by filling it.
Retail stores, too, offer a potential solution.
We found that retailers that do install charging see a significant increase in foot traffic and revenue.
But according to new data from Consumer Reports, only about 1% of the roughly 270,000 retail locations reviewed currently offer EV charging.
We're kind of at an odd chicken versus egg. What do we need? More EV drivers to drive demand, or do we need more money to build stations? And I think it's kind of an all hands on deck effort.
I'm Michael Yoshida reporting.
March is National Women's History Month, and while women have made strides in medical fields, they still make up only about 1/3 of all emergency medical technicians nationwide. As KPBS reporter Alexander Wynn shows us, a new program by the region's largest ambulance company is looking to change that.
Judith Ramirez is showing her daughter that there is more to an ambulance than just the lights and sirens.
Light, heat, a lot of our older population, they get cold easily.
Ramirez wants to inspire her to pursue her dreams, just as she did.
I believe it's very important to keep sharing these experiences with her.
Ramirez's story is also inspiring. A year ago, before becoming an EMT, she was working 3 jobs to support her daughter as a single mother.
I was in such a different place, and now to be here and to have the opportunity to share something like this with my daughter, I think it's absolutely amazing.
What changed Ramirez's life trajectory was the Earn While You Learn Training Academy by AMR, one of the region's largest ambulance transport company.
I was in class in Southwestern, and AMR came in, supervisors came in, and they presented us with this program.
The 16-week program is a partnership between AMR and Miramar College. The company covers the costs of books and tuition and pays cadets while they attend classes or job shadowing. But for the next training academy this fall, AMR will launch an all-female class. Right now, if you call for an ambulance, the EMT who shows up at your door will most likely be a man. Nationally, only 30 to 40% of EMTs are women.
Women obviously can empathize and understand more women emergencies, more female emergencies.
Hannah Peterson is a supervisor at AMR. She says women can pick up on some things that men sometimes miss.
Being able to quickly understand, quickly pick up on certain things as a female definitely matter in a very short amount of time.
Ramirez says without the Earn While You Learn program, she would not have achieved her dream of being an EMT.
It really opened up opportunity for me, and it changed my life in a way that I don't know if it's even expressible in words.
Upon graduation and passing the national EMT test, cadets are guaranteed a job with AMR. Women who are interested in the program can apply online at amrsandiego.net/EWYL-info. Alex Zenowin, KPBS News.
Looking at our weather headlines, tracking some big changes. First, coming up with the temperatures, it will be turning cooler through the end of the week and into the weekend as the winds begin to pick up ahead of our next storm here, which is going to send precip from the coast all the way into the mountains. Unfortunately, just in time for the weekend. Looking at tonight, it will be dry across the region. San Diego County looking decent tonight with temperatures mainly dropping to the 40s and 50s. Mount Laguna has our coldest spot tonight, 40 degrees. Borrego Springs, 53. San Diego, you'll drop down to 52. And Oceanside as those clouds increase into the upper 40s. Now, the front's going to be impacting Northern California throughout the day on Friday. Out ahead of that, we are still dry into San Diego County to wrap up the week. Overall, a decent day to get outdoors. We'll see more clouds through Chula Vista, but upper 60s. We'll see 84 in Borrego Springs as we head into the day tomorrow, and low 50s with plenty of sunshine into Mount Laguna. But as that front continues to make its way east, look what happens. We see the showers make a comeback as we start the weekend. So plan for some wet weather here, and we track that on future satellite and radar throughout our Saturday. And you'll see the rain going all the way into Southern California here throughout Saturday afternoon, about lunchtime hour or so, and you'll see another batch of that through Saturday night and even throughout the day on Sunday. We could still be dealing with some areas of precip across the region. Let's look at the coast here. There it is. Showers around on Saturday and a couple showers on Sunday. Warmer, drier weather to start next week by Monday and Tuesday. Further inland, where there will be showers around throughout the day on Saturday, cooler with a couple of showers on Sunday, and then things warm up, but we'll still see some clouds sticking around for Monday and Tuesday. When we look into the mountain forecast, the wind really picks up throughout the day on Saturday, a high of only 40, and then cold weather with some snow moving in as we head into the day Sunday, staying a bit chilly throughout early next week. The deserts could even see a shower or two, especially as we head into the day Sunday, otherwise staying very windy. For KPBS News, I'm Ariella Scalise.
Well, the Padres beat the Dodgers in a slugfest to earn their first win of the season this morning. 15-11 was the final score, and it was included the first home run of the year for Manny Machado. The game capped a 2-game series in Seoul, South Korea, to begin the MLB regular season. Jake Cronenworth also had a big game with 4 runs batted in. The Padres are headed back to San Diego for a busy weekend. Saturday will include a public memorial for Peter Seidler at Petco Park, and that's followed by Fan Fest on Sunday. Well, we are a little more than a week away from Cesar Chavez Day, but the students and staff at Southwestern College honored the civil rights activist today. The school's Chicano Latino Coalition hosted the 17th annual Cesar A. Chavez Scholarship Breakfast this morning. Our media partner KGTV spoke with event organizers who say Chavez was an advocate for education. And that is one of the reasons that they continue to honor him.
He reminds us every day that education is an opportunity that provides an equal level playing field for all. And most importantly, that he was someone that valued education, but also valued working in unity, working collaboratively, and working for a better community for all.
6 students were awarded scholarships at today's breakfast, and afterward, attendants raised the United Farm Workers flag at Mayan Hall for the first time in the school's history. And here's a look at what we're working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom on NPR's Morning Edition. An update on the ongoing problems and delays with federal student aid. And KPBS Roundtable is discussing the high cost of living in San Diego, from rising rent and utility bills to child care expenses. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.